Hello everybody, and welcome to the Gaming Grappler. The first news story that I really want to cover is the Palworld Nexus Mods situation. It seems to me that Palworld will be eternally shrouded in some kind of controversy, and it's really done developer Pocket Pair more good than harm. It's marketed and sold their indie game for free and on autopilot. And the origin of this new controversy is that an uploader to Nexus Mods uploaded a mod that swapped out all the Palworld character designs for Pokemon character designs. And the reason why Nexus Mods thought that this was so egregious that they took down the mod themselves is that there's already plenty of controversy surrounding Palworld's character designs. And I just want to put a little disclaimer here. I do not agree with this controversy in the slightest. A lot of people will argue that the character designs in Palworld are blatant plagiarism to Pokemon. And I would disagree with that by saying that Palworld is a parody game. And as a parody game, it has to somewhat resemble its original source material. Kind of like how Spaceballs has to resemble Star Wars. And I'm not the one that came up with that argument, but it is suitable. And it's not like developer Pocket Pair is the first studio, the first comedians to come out and parody Pokemon. South Park did a Pokemon parody back in the day. Drawn Together just flat out has a Pikachu version in their show. And this is something that's been done over and over again. And I have no idea why so many people are singling out Palworld. Parody is okay, and they're covered under fair use. Now, what does seem to be a problem is that this Nexus mod just directly infringes on Nintendo's copyright. And it was so egregious that they had to take it down themselves. And here's what the owners of Nexus Mods had to say about the matter. While we do think that adding Pokemon content to Palworld is a very cool idea, and we understand why people would want such a thing, however, we're not comfortable hosting this content at Nexus Mods. As you may know, Nintendo, who jointly own the Pokemon franchise, have a consistent record of mercilessly submitting legal challenges, DMCAs, and takedowns against fan-made content. Let's face it, Nintendo has a pretty bad reputation of shutting down fan games. Here are some infamous projects that Nintendo has just flat out executed. There was PokeNet, which was a fan-made Pokemon MMORPG that featured all regions in existence. And what I find especially egregious here is that Nintendo hasn't made this game themselves. Like, I'm not a big Pokemon fan. I briefly played the series during my childhood, but at this point in my life, I am an outside observer, and even for me, it is painfully obvious that the audience of Pokemon wants to play an MMORPG, and it's free money on the table, and Nintendo doesn't want to make the game. They just want to shut down fan games that have given the people what they wanted. There was Pokemon Uranium, which wasn't just a simple ROM hack, but a game made with original assets. And then there was another Metroid 2 remake, which was a 16-bit remake of Metroid 2. And I do understand that Nintendo was probably pressured to get rid of this game since they were creating their very own Metroid 2 remake, but it's not a good look here, especially since it took them, almost 20 years to remake Metroid 2 when the fan base has been saying for years that they wanted the game. So here's my message for all of you fan game creators out there. Please stop putting blood, sweat, and tears into intellectual properties that you don't own the rights to. I can't imagine what it must have been like to be the developer of another Metroid 2 remake, or the developers behind PokeNet. People who've put thousands of hours into creating their fan creations, only for them to be instantly shut down and not compensated for in the slightest. Be like developer Pocket Pair. Well, Palworld is a direct knockoff of Pokemon. It's a parody, and it's legally distinct enough that they're getting fairly compensated. And a matter of fact, Palworld is an overnight success story that's made the developers millionaires. And I feel like this is what every fan game creator should be aspiring to. Just look at Pizza Tower. Pizza Tower was originally created to be a love letter to the Wario Land games, but somewhere during the game's development cycle, Pizza Tower began to develop an identity of its own and become its own original properties. As of today, Pizza Tower is one of the most popular indie games in existence, and it's debatably surpassed the Wario Land franchise. And I feel like this is what every fan game creator should be aspiring to become, where their fan creations eventually develop their own identity and surpass what they're based off of. But hey, that's just my opinion. Speaking of fan games, now is the perfect time to segue into talking about the situation surrounding Bloodborne Kart. And for those that don't know, Bloodborne Kart is a fan game parody created by YouTube user Lilith Walther. My apologies in advance if I've mispronounced your username, but the concept of the game is that it takes the gritty Lovecraftian horror of Bloodborne and then minimizes it into a wacky kart racer with PlayStation 1 graphics, and I just love every bit of that. Sony, who partially owns the rights to Bloodborne, has recently ordered the fan developer to scrub the branding off the game. The developer is complying with this request, and the good news is that the fan game looks like it's still going to come out. There is a silver lining to this cloud. If the developers successfully scrub all the Bloodborne assets from the game and replace it with their own original content, then that means they could sell the game on Steam and become an overnight success story, kind of like Palworld. So I kind of feel like this whole situation is a blessing in disguise, where the developers of Bloodborne Kart now have the opportunity to flip all of the assets and make them original. They get to coast off of all the free marketing of having their game resemble Bloodborne, and now they have the opportunity, the potential to put the game on the market. They can put it on Steam and potentially make millions of dollars. It's finally nice to see one of these situations flip around for the better. Again, just a quick disclaimer here. I have no idea if the developers behind Bloodborne Kart have any intention of putting the game for sale, but I'm just saying that if they successfully flip all the assets and use their own original 3D models and character designs, they do have the possibility and the potential of actually selling the game. So again, I'm just putting some food for thought here. Is Microsoft going to phase out of selling physical copies of video games? I sure hope not, but from what I've been reading lately, it looks like that's where we're heading now. Here's a quote I've read from Video Games Chronicle. On Thursday, the company said it plans to lay off 1,900 staff across Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard. So look what happens when your company gets absorbed by Microsoft. You get laid off en masse. The quote goes on to say that Microsoft has also shut down departments dedicated to bringing Xbox games to physical retail, which, if you've seen the digital-only Xbox console leaks, well, you can get an idea of where Microsoft is going here. And on its own, this quote isn't necessarily the nail in the coffin for physical games on Xbox, but it doesn't bode too well for the console's future. There are plenty of digital-only consoles, and they seem to be selling pretty well, and you gotta follow the money here. The quote goes on to say that there are certain AAA games with 80% plus digital shares on Xbox these days, so it's not too surprising. And the reason why I'm so against going fully digital is that when you buy a digital copy of a game, you don't have any ownership rights to it. You're getting a license that you're paying for full price that can get taken away from you for any reason, whether it's arbitrary or not. Microsoft could end up deleting your games from your hard drive against your will. Before you say that I'm going full tinfoil hat here, there is precedence for this type of thing happening in the past. Amazon once removed people's paid-for copies of 1984 from Kindle devices. And I know that seems kind of on the nose, like really? You're going to censor 1984, you're going to physically remove it from people's hard drives against their will, but I guess Jeff Bezos isn't known for his subtlety. So again, this could happen with people's video games. There's no reason why it couldn't. And people have to put in effort into games preservation. And if we're going to go digital only, there are healthy ways of going about it. Whenever you buy a game off of Good Old Games, you have the opportunity to use an offline installer. This offline installer could be archived to any physical medium of your choice, whether it's saving it to your hard drive or burning it to an optical disc. You have full freedom of what to do with the games that you paid for. And as it stands, you don't need to use Good Old Games as a service. So even if Good Old Games gets shut down in the future, if you've successfully archived your copies of the games, you could install them whenever the hell you want. I want that type of digital freedom with other companies like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, but a man can only dream here. So I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about for the news section of this video. And now I kind of wanted to get into my future plans for this channel. My favorite type of content to produce is video game reviews. They're very rewarding to produce and create. There's a genuine sense of fulfillment every time I make one of those videos, and they typically get the most views on my channel. However, they are extremely labor intensive to create, and I'm not complaining because I definitely enjoy doing what I do. But if I want to upload content on a more consistent and regular basis, I don't want to rush these video game reviews. I have in the past crunched out a video in a week, and while it was good, that's not necessarily realistic. A good video game review takes around 2 weeks to a month to create, and if I try to rush the process, there will be some type of compromise in quality that I don't really want to make. So I'm going to start pitching some ideas, some shows that aren't as labor intensive, especially in the editing regard. So this is a new section that I'm trying out right now, but I'm also open to suggestions. So please like, comment, and subscribe. I will be listening to feedback when I try out some new ideas. Some new ideas that I have floating around is starting Let's Plays, because I do love playing video games, and a lot of people have subscribed to this channel for my Armored Core content, so I kind of feel like if I did a playthrough of Armored Core 3, Silent Line, and Last Raven, I'm really interested in getting into the 3rd generation of Armored Core games, so maybe you guys are interested in me doing a full playthrough of those games or possibly streaming them. Again, just to reiterate here, my goal here is to have some form of short form content that I can produce along my video game reviews. And when I mean short form content, I don't mean like literally the length of the video, but in terms of production. Like video editing is a time vampire. It's often the part of the process that takes me the longest to complete. And I'm looking for something in sort of a podcast type of format. I'm open to suggestions. So again, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one, everybody.